All right, addicts, check this out. We have Dan Lynn from the band Silencer on the line. Dan, how you doing, man?
Good. How's it going, Billy?
Doing great, man, and great to finally talk to you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So, tell us a little something about Silencer, man. How long you guys been together? When did it all happen? When did it all come together?
Silencer came together a long time ago, actually. We, the band actually got started in 1999, so we've been around for a while. And I joined the band in 2003, so it's been quite a long run, I would say. And we put out a bunch of records since then. Like most recently, we put out a record called The Great Bear, which is like a really fun concept record. We've changed styles a little bit over the years, but this most recent record is kind of like a return to like late 70s, 80s traditional metal.
Cool, man. So how the guys come up with the name Silencer, man?
Well, originally the idea was you're making so much noise at people on stage that you're not only are you deafening them, but there's like nothing left to say. So you're kind of silencing the audience. Was the original idea. Unfortunately, that means when you Google us, you get a lot of things about guns.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I wouldn't really say we're like an extremely violent band or a bunch of like Second Amendment type people, but it's a great name. It's very metal, super bombastic and over the top.
Cool, man. So tell us about the songwriting. Is it a one-person effort? Is it a group effort?
We make the best effort to make it a group. It's like kind of everybody's totally willing. They're willing, but they're totally able to contribute. And kind of over the years, people have tended to dive into it to different levels. Traditionally, like at least the last 3 records, like the Keith Spargo and I, the other guitarist, have been kind of the main driving force, except for this current record. This where we brought our friend Patrick in. He's formerly of Cephalic Carnage and a really cool melodic death metal band from Denver back in the day called Cerberus. We brought in and the 3 of us for something cool. So the 3 of us spent a lot of time writing this record. We hired Alex. Our drummer Alex for a while. He was doing a couple different things, and he was involved in the recording and a little bit of he brought his own particular style from drumming into it, and got involved a little bit in the songwriting, but it was mostly Keith, Patrick, and I that kind of did this most recent, and it's a collaborative process. I crank out riffs like crazy, and I'm really kind of like a holistic orchestrating type of songwriter, so I'll be sitting here imagining all the different parts of a record, or all the different parts of a song. The bass needs to do this, and the guitars need to do that, and not a lot of bands write like that. I don't think they some bands will be there's the main riff, and then everyone else comes up with their part,
right?
And that works really well. And so there's a push and a pull in all songwriting. I come up with something that's it's got all the parts in it, even the drum beat kind of, or a rough idea of the drum beat, and then everybody actually if I can convince them that that's the way it should sound for a given part, then everybody takes that and makes it way better than I ever could have. And so that's how it is with me, but it's kind of the same with anybody else. If they come up with a part that they really like, we do the same thing to it. So we massage it and end up making an actual song with a lot of different things going at the same time.
Cool, man. So now, how would you describe your sound to people?
Well, now it's hard to say that because this most recent record, The Great Bear, is such a different sound than our last record. The current one is really kind of a traditional metal meets early thrash sound. But then I could tell you we threw in a little bit of prog influence, and if you listen really carefully, you can hear a little bit of nod to some of the Swedish death metal bands from the 90s, early Soilwork and stuff like that. But it's just because we've got a lot of influences. But this most recent record is definitely, we made a concerted effort to bring in a lot of stoner rock influence, really strong Motorhead influence, and really make a record that we thought was, not flavor of the week, just how technical can I be, which just, it seems like the last couple of years that's been a pretty strong trend in metal.
Right. Well, so, you guys play a lot of live shows?
Yeah, I would say we do a lot. I mean, we're not out there, 6 months out of the year or anything like that. But, we recognize that live shows, in fact, people tell us our live shows are better than our record. Like the way we sound on record. So every time we hear that, it's like puts a little more fire under your ass to get in the van and drive out. But pretty much ever since we released the record, we've been trying to do, somewhere between like 2 and 5 shows a month, and we've done that in markets. We're based out of Denver, so we played some shows in Denver, and we do like long weekend trips where it's like let's go down to Amarillo, Texas, or let's go to New Mexico or Wyoming or things like that. And we got some plans later this year to hit some additional markets.
Cool. So now, what would you say are the best and the worst things about playing the live shows?
Oh, good question. Best thing about playing a live show is that 30 minutes when you're actually playing it. Right? I can speak for me personally. The worst part about playing is everything else. It's you basically you're up there and you're like giving it your all to like put on an amazing show for people. But in order to do that, you've got to haul thousands of pounds of gear out of your practice space into the van. Like, we don't have roadies. We're not that big, right? Out of the van, into the venue, right? And then you got to do the gear juggle as bands switch on and off. And it's just like a lot of work just to do a little show, right? When fans actually like that and they really respond to it, it makes it all worth it. But yeah, it's the best part is when you're actually playing metal, and the worst part is really just like all of the other work you have to do just to get there.
Cool, man. So now, when did you first start playing music, man? And when did you first get into this?
Well, I got into metal, I would say, in high school, right? So high school for me would have been like 1999 and 2000. And but I'd already been playing music for years before then. I played viola starting in 3rd grade, so I was playing in orchestras for a long time. And sometime in high school is when I found guitar. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then I discovered metal. I think it was because I got a car. And that was the first time I was driving around, and this car has a radio in it, and there's a local metal station playing Metallica all the time. I was like, wow, I've never heard of this. This is awesome. This is really cool. So my first exposure to Metallica was in the late 90s. But to my credit, I really liked the early stuff. So.
Cool.
But yeah, that's how I got started in it, and then I kind of had my metal education and learned all about all the various evolutions of metal over the years, and I just really like playing guitar.
Cool, man, cool. So now, who would you say are your personal musical influences?
Personal, that changes a lot. If I were to speak to kind of the my current metal influences. The big ones would be maybe Jeff Loomis and Peter Witchers and Devin Townsend, if I had to name 3.
Cool.
Right. So Peter Witchers is of Soilwork, although he just left again last year. But they just did the record they did, I guess it was 2011. That record was amazing. That was called, I'm forgetting, was it the Stabbing the Drama record?
Yeah,
that record is holy crap. Right. And then I've been a huge fan of Devin Townsend, ever since his really early solo stuff, ever since Strapping Young Lad. That guy's gone all over the place in terms of style, and somehow it always sounded like him. Really cool use of chords. He reminds me a lot of Danny Elfman, all the way back in the Oingo Boingo days, and just some of the musical adaptations, the use of Lydian modes all the time. It was really cool stuff. And then Jeff Loomis, because he's just ridiculous. I mean, that guy can crank out riffs. He can play guitar probably about 10 times better than I can, and it's just quite an inspiration.
Cool, man, cool. So now, when you're not writing, touring, rehearsing with the band, what do you do for a day off, man? What do you enjoy doing?
Too much. There's too many cool things to do in the world, right? I like skiing a lot. This summer, I'm finally going to try to finish my paragliding certification. I did it, I got most of the way a couple years ago, and then I got just too busy with work and music, and there's just too many things like vying for your time, and I'm going to try to finish it this year. It's like something about flying without like an engine is one of the craziest feelings in the world.
Cool, man, real cool. So now, what would you say is your biggest rock star moment, man, or your most memorable moment?
Most memorable moment. Well, I think it would be maybe more memorable for other people. Would be one way to put this. But all the way back in 2003, we were touring for a record called Structures at the time. We were touring for that, and we'd actually recommissioned. We'd been recommissioned to re-release the record on an Italian label called Adrenaline Records as a full length. So we tacked a couple other songs onto it and re-released it. And then we were touring that in the summer, and we were going to end the tour at Milwaukee Metal Fest. I spent the whole 2-week tour basically sick with a fever. So every night I'm sitting there, playing like in sweaty clubs, like with a fever, and like just pounding like Advil all the time. It's horrible. We finally make it to the Milwaukee Metal Fest, and I'm finally not sick anymore. So it was like, now it's time to actually party. And we ended up hanging out with like our good friends from a band from Wyoming. They're now a defunct band called Dead Speak. They're like a pretty awesome, like, kind of Carnal Forge style, like, death thrash band.
Right.
And ended up hanging out with them, and those guys managed to plow more vodka Red Bulls. Actually, no, it was actually Jaeger bombs into me, I think. And a few other substances, perhaps, than I've ever like gotten near in my adult life. Like, basically, there's photos out there. I haven't seen these photos of them like taking pictures of me while I'm sitting in a chair, like trying to take pictures of me, like to get my eyes open. I'm basically passed out in a chair. Somehow, I don't know how this worked. That was my last memory there. Then I woke up in Nebraska. Like, somebody got me into the back of the van in the morning somehow, and I was basically hungover for 2 states.
Oh shit!
Yeah, woke up 2 states away. That was pretty rock star, I'd say.
Yeah, man, I'd say. Well, I usually follow up with tell us about your least rock star moment or any Spinal Tap moments, but that could qualify too, right?
Yeah, that was pretty least rock star. Definitely. I mean, we've had Spinal Tap moments, like, that same tour, we had a drummer named Ryan at the time drumming with us. This was in 2003. He managed to piss off our bassist, like, on basically every half hour. I remember we were sitting there, it was summer 2003, we were watching the invasion of Iraq on TV, and everybody's sitting like quiet, like we're in this hotel. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. This drummer Ryan wasn't paying attention at all. I don't think he cared or anything. And he's like, all of a sudden, like, interrupts her. He's like, wait, what's going on? And our bassist at the time, Jeff, literally turns around. He's like, do you even pay attention to anything? He like snaps and like we thought he was going to throw him off the second-story balcony of this hotel into the swimming pool underneath. It got pretty close to it, but. Yeah, we survived the tour with Ryan, and we get along with him really well today. But it was a funny memory back then.
Cool, man. Cool.
So yeah, I mean, all that led to creating this cool record we've got now. This record, The Great Bear. It's really fun. It's a concept record about like what if the space race between the U.S. and the Soviet Union like played out differently. We're almost like going back in time and making an alternate history. We were like really excited to come up with this whole concept for the whole record, and we put a lot of effort into making sure the songs tied in with each other and the lyrics tied in with each other, and like the music fit for all that. So I was at the time I was like really into Operation Mindcrime and like really into that whole concept record that quite a few bands have pulled off successfully. And so I think it was cool that we've been able to do that, and the reviews that have been coming in have been really liking it. So I'm really excited by that.
Cool, man. So now, what was the thinking behind doing a concept album? Because they can be pretty risky to do.
Totally risky. Well, we'd done 2 records basically, which were like super. We were getting more aggressive. 2005, the record "The Death of Awe," That record was like the fastest thing we've ever written. You listen to that, and it's like, louder, faster, more aggressive. It's really funny, though, if you really pay attention to it. There's a lot of intricacies to that record, but it was just super aggressive, and that was when we got Chad on vocals, and he was the first screamer we had in the band. And so the reaction to that, like, from the original fans of Silencer, was some of them really liked it, and some of them really didn't like it. So it was a pretty strong split. And then we continued that when we did Divisions. We released Divisions in 2009. And I think Divisions is an amazing record, and a lot of people really liked it. Malcolm Dome from Metal Hammer really liked it. But it was still, it was like really aggressive. So one thing at least we had a reputation for was changing our sound. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but
right.
We had a reputation for it. So we figured, after that, our drummer Brian, who'd been with us for 2 records straight, and had been touring with us for a lot longer than that, he wanted to go do something else. And so there was kind of a little bit of like a disinterest. We were kind of going our separate ways a little bit. And, Keith called me up and he's like, hey, why don't we do something like different like this? And that really got me interested. I was like, wow, that's really pretty cool. It's like an opportunity to tell a story, Our lyrics have always been Keith and I spend, right? At least before Patrick showed up, it was Keith and I by ourselves. We spent so much time working on lyrics. We'd be sitting there in coffee shops like all the time, like arguing over like one word, because we like, we really like want you to like use your imagination when you read the lyrics or listen to them. And it's funny that we like end up screaming them out so fast that most people can't hear them. But if you read them, there's something for kind of every fan. So we've always done that in each song. Every song, like dating all the way back, especially like on the Divisions record, every one of those songs is a little bit of a story in it. Like the song Shift Kill has an amazing story that's kind of, 12 Monkeys-esque, right? There's like time travel in the song and all this crazy stuff, right, that I don't know if anybody really notices, but, we had a good time writing it. So when Keith called up and said, why don't we do like a concept record that's the whole record long, now it was this opportunity to, like, we could tell a big story here, but we also wanted to keep it short. We didn't want to have it be like a 60-minute long record. We intentionally wanted to have it be like a 30-minute, really nice, like short story type of record that, you want to listen to again, right? Not something that by the time you get to track 12 or whatever, you're bored.
Right.
So it was exciting to me. I've been starting to get into this idea of scoring film soundtracks, so it was pretty appealing to me to say, like, wow, why don't we like actually write music that needs to connect all the way through the record? And so if you hear this record, there's little motifs that appear all over the place when we're trying to suggest certain things, and so it's very musically connected in addition to being just lyrically connected.
Cool, man. Cool. So now, as a musician, man, would you say you evolved since you first began with Silencer?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I first began with Silencer, I was probably not nearly as good of a guitarist, and I had a pretty strong music theory background, but I've since grown it a lot. I've learned new ways of writing chord progression, new ways of structuring melody, new ways of like putting rhythm together. And I've grown a ton, and that's probably because I kind of learned to play bass a little bit. I'm getting better at learning piano and like expanding my repertoire of at least instruments that I can play with. I got really into studio recording, so I learned how to do that. I mixed the last 3 records we did, or 2.5, depending on how you cut that. But I've definitely grown. It's provided a huge vehicle for me to like, make myself better at kind of everything musical.
Cool, man. Cool. So now, what advice for new bands would you have just starting out, man?
New bands starting out. Well, first and foremost, you got to write good music. It doesn't have to be fabulous music, to be honest. Like, if you really want to like get fans, you got to write music that's like not redundant music. If you sound exactly like somebody else, you're not going to get very far because eventually you'll get found out. But if you can come up with something kind of original that integrates a few different influences, and you're getting positive feedback from that, then just play your ass off. Early on, like the first 2 records in this band, it was like every weekend this band was out on the road, like 2 states away, 3 states away, taking 3-day weekends, driving like from Denver to Phoenix in one shot, which is like 14 hours. Like you're really trying to like play your ass off in your hometown and make sure that like every time you do it, you're like getting on better and better shows and getting bigger and bigger, audiences there. And you know, that's a whole like discussion in of itself. Just how do you promote yourself locally, and how do you get people to go to shows in one town? But you add in other towns onto that, and you start making friends with other bands and other scenes, and start trading shows and all that. It's very punk rock, but you got to start with something good and then promote the hell out of it.
Cool. So now, are you guys on a label now? Or are you looking for one?
We're on a label right now with our manager Dave. It's been a great, like, our last record came out on his label called F-Bomb, and since then the music industry has like evolved even more. So we did a distribution deal with Dave, which we liked quite a bit, through his new venture called Vanity Music Group. And it's been great, like we financed all the recording and whatnot on the record, right, which allowed us to like come up to it with a really good like business arrangement on the record. We think everybody has a chance to like make a little money. We can recoup some of our costs, although this is metal. You're not. Everybody has a day job. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, right. I hear that, man. So, what would you say is the ultimate goal for Silencer, man?
The ultimate goal, like for us at this point, is write really good music. When the opportunity presents itself, play in front of like fans that like us. Everybody in a band has had that show where you end up you're on the wrong bill. You're on that bill with like people that are interested in other kinds of music, and that's kind of like you have to do that in order to earn your stripes, so to speak. Right. For us, it's like we want to pick and choose our shows now. We're getting into our 30s here and starting to choose like of all the things you do in your life, like what's the most important. My good friend Keith, who's our other guitarist, he just had a baby daughter a couple weeks ago, so we're taking a little bit of time for him to be a dad for a while before we start trying to drag him back into it. But for us, the ultimate goal is really just play to people that like the music, right? And make sure that we're still having fun, because that's the most important.
Right, absolutely, man, absolutely. So now, where can the listeners find Silencer?
So you can find us all over the place. The easiest way is on our website, silencer.cc. It's not a .com, silencer.cc. But we're also on Facebook at facebook.com/silencermetal. You can hunt us down on iTunes if you search for Silencer and any of our records like Divisions or The Great Bear is our most recent record. We're also on Amazon MP3. I think we're on Google Play. We're also on Bandcamp. I think we're bandcamp.com/silencermetal. A lot of different places to hunt us down. There's streaming on a lot of those sites. Like iTunes and Amazon will obviously sell you the record. We'll sell you the record. We'll sell you vinyl off of our website if you're into vinyl.
Oh, cool.
And we got a bunch of cool stuff off our website, like shirts and all sorts of fun stuff, patches. And, we got way into the merchandise thing. And, we like to bring the show, too. And we have ourselves a 12-foot by 12-foot banner that's, like, only reserved for big enough theaters where you can fit it. But when you have that, like, there's a couple... If you hunt us down on YouTube, there's a couple shows with us with that banner behind us, and it's a lot of work to get it up there, but we look badass.
Cool, man. Very cool. Well, Dan, the song I want to play tonight is Light. What can you tell us about that tune?
Cool, man. Well, Light is basically like the last lyrical track on The Great Bear. And I don't want to give away too much about the plot of the record, because, why would I give you the last chapter of a book, I suppose? But lyrically, it's about a guy who finds himself in space, and he's looking back at his choices, and the choices that brought him into space on a journey. And the song has a lot of really uplifting aspects, because you're in space. Come on, that's awesome. But there's also a lot of like impact to the choices that the guy in the song has made, and some things aren't necessarily so good. And so the song has a lot of like doomy parts at the end of it. It's got just a lot of variety, and it's got a little bit of a nod to Iron Maiden in there. We wanted a big sing-along chorus, so it's a really fun song.
Cool, man, cool. Well, Dan, man, I want to thank you for calling in tonight and hanging out with me.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. This has been really fun.
Absolutely, man. Hang on 1 second. Check this out, listeners. This is Light from Silencer. We'll be right back.